I'm Clint Walker, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint. I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Trayvon Martin's parents join Million Hoodie March in New York City. A Mississippi teen gets life sentence for killing black man. And Romney aide likens platform to Etch-a-Sketch. And UN Security Council backs Syria plan. And Mali soldiers stage coup, suspend Constitution. And suspected gunman dies after standoff in France. And Clinton says Afghanistan, U.S. near deal on night raids. And oil execs face charges for Brazil spill. And Colombian troops kill 39 FARC rebels. The U.S. Army opens review after PTSD scandal. And DHS eyed Occupy Anonymous before protests began. And suspects arrested in firebombing of Texas state senator's office. GVTV News would like to say the views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of NCTV Digital Media Center. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who support your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, outrage continues to grow, over the killing of unarmed African-American teenager Trayvon Martin on Florida last month. On Wednesday, Martin's parents, Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin, joined thousands of people for a Million Hoodie March in New York City. Tracy Martin said, "Our son did not deserve to die. There's nothing that we can do to bring him back, but I'm here today to ensure that justice is served and no other parents have to go through this again." Sabrina Fulton said, "Because our son had not committed any crime, our son is your son. I want you guys to stand up for justice and stand up for what's right. This is not about black or white thing. This is about right and wrong thing. Justice for Trayvon." Meanwhile, officials in Sanford, the city where Martin was killed, have passed a vote of no confidence in Police Chief Bill Lee over the failure to arrest or charge Martin's confessed shooter, George Zimmerman. A white teenager in Mississippi has been sentenced to life in prison for killing an African-American man by running him over with a pickup truck. Darrell Dedman was among the group of white teens who beat James Craig Anderson, a 49-year-old black auto plant worker, while yelling "white power" and other racial epithets. Dedman was caught on a video driving a truck over Anderson, killing him instantly. Anderson was also a gay man with a same-sex partner, but it was unclear if his sexual orientation factored into the deadly attack. At his sentencing, Dedman apologized for the murder, saying he was young, dumb, and full of hatred. Mitt Romney's presidential campaign is taking heat after a key aide suggested Romney will change his political stances if he wins the nomination. Speaking to CNN, senior Romney advisor Eric Fernstrom compared Romney's platform to an Etch-a-Sketch, the erasable toy. John Fugelsang said, "It's fair to say John McCain was considered a more moderate candidate than one Governor Romney faces now. Is there a concern that pressure from Santorum and Gingrich might force the governor to tack so far to the right that he might hurt him with moderate voters in a general election?" And Fernstrom responded, "Well, I think that you hit a reset button in the fall. You can shake it up and we can start all over again, like an Etch-a-Sketch." Romney's rival was seized on comments. Gaffes overshadowed news of endorsement of Romney's candidacy by former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. UN Security Council has voted unanimously to support UN Arab League Special Joint Envoy Kofi Annan's plan to stop the government's crackdown in Syria and ensuring aid to victims, Russia and China, which have previously disputed council proposals on Syria, both joined the vote after the statement language was softened. Annan's plan called for Syrian-led political transition to democracy. Acting Security Council President Mark Lyle Grant of Britain read out the council statement and said the Security Council expresses its full support for the effort of the envoy to bring an immediate end to all violence and human rights violations, secure humanitarian access, and facilitate a Syrian-led political transition to a democratic, plural political system in which citizens are equal regardless of affiliations or ethnicities or beliefs, and including the commencing of comprehensive political dialogue between Syrian government and the whole spectrum of the Syrian opposition. In Mali, renegade soldiers are claiming control of the country after attack at the presidential palace and capital of Bamako. The soldiers have said they have ousted Mali President Amadou Talmani Tabroui. I think that's how you pronounce it. Soldiers say they had suspended the constitution and imposed a military curfew. Torre was scheduled to step down at April's elections. His whereabouts are unknown. And a man suspected of gunning down 7 people in France has reportedly jumped from a balcony and died as the security forces burst into his apartment following a standoff. Mohammed Marah had told police he wanted to avenge the death of Palestinian children and seek revenge for French involvement in Afghanistan. He also claimed ties to al-Qaeda. Marah was suspected of killing 4 people at a Jewish school and as well as 3 soldiers in separate attacks this month. The United States says it is on track to complete a strategic partnership agreement after the Afghanistan government ahead of the key NATO summit in May. Talks between the two sides have been strained following a number of incidents, including the massacre of 16 Afghan civilians by U.S. soldiers earlier this month. Following a meeting with Afghanistan, Foreign Minister Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said the deal on governing the U.S. military night raids on Afghan home is close at hand. She said the recent memorandum of understanding on detention operations was signed. As you heard in the minister, we are looking forward to finalizing the so-called night raids agreement. These are complicated issues, but we are resolving them. We are clearing the way towards a strategic partnership agreement. We would very much like to be in position to sign such an agreement either before or at the Chicago summit, and I think we are on track to do so. And Brazilian prosecutors have filed charges against 17 executives from giant Chevron and rig operator Transocean in connection with recent deepwater oil spill. Some 110,000 gallons of oil leaked off the shore of Rio de Janeiro in November. Last week, Brazil announced more oil was leaking from cracks in the ocean floor near the offshore Chevron well. Executives are accused of a number of environmental crimes as well as deceiving Brazilian officials after the spill. At least 39 members of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia have reportedly been killed in an operation by Colombian troops. Colombian soldiers targeted the FARC after the rebels killed 11 soldiers in an ambush over the weekend. Attack on FARC is one of the deadliest in the last 5 years. It comes just before the two sides were due to begin agreements that will see FARC release hostages. The U.S. Army has launched a system-wide review to ensure its healthcare providers are not considered treatment costs when they make diagnoses. The review comes after it was revealed therapists at Madigan Army Medical Center in Washington State reversed diagnoses of post-traumatic stress disorder for hundreds of soldiers. The center is located at Joint Base Lewis McChord, the home base of Staff Sergeant Robert Bales, who is suspected of killing 16 Afghan villagers earlier this month. Data released by Washington Senator Patty Murray shows Madigan screening teams reversed more than 40% of PTSD diagnoses for patients being considered for medical retirement since 2007. A newly released document shows the U.S. Department of Homeland Security began tracking the Occupy Wall Street movement long before protesters claimed Zuccotti Park last fall. According to Business Insider, the department focused on particular in the hacker group Anonymous and its support of what turned out to be the inaugural protest of September 17th. In a memo, analysts warned these protests may be accompanied by malicious cyber activity conducted by Anonymous. And in Texas, a suspect has been arrested in the firebombing of an office of Democratic senator known for backing Planned Parenthood and other progressive causes. Wendy Davis' Fort Worth office was briefly set on fire earlier this week when Molotov cocktails were thrown inside. The attack came 1 week after Texas banned Planned Parenthood clinics from enrolling in a program extending Medicaid coverage for low-income women. And that's it today for our world news. Now we'd like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Jonah's an American. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Tuesday, 8:21 a.m. A caller from 100 block of Margaret Lane reported finding drugs. 10:49 a.m. A caller from 100 block of West Berry Hill Drive reported a fight with one person pulling another person's hair. 2:15 p.m. caller from 400 block of South Auburn Street reported finding a large knife half buried in a front yard. At 4:20 p.m. a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported a man smoking marijuana. He was cited on suspicion of possessing marijuana. 8:27 p.m. a caller from 200 block of Sutton Way reported hearing firecrackers or a gun and seeing two juveniles leaving the area. And Wednesday, 3 a.m. caller from 400 block of Colfax Avenue reported an attempted burglary with deadbolt broken and safe tampered with. And Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Tuesday, 8:38 a.m. caller from 18,000 block of Bambi Court reported a burglary to a tool shed. And 10:53 a.m. a woman from 11,000 block of Francis Drive reported someone used her Craigslist.com account to post a fraudulent rental ad. 11:13 a.m. a caller from 10,000 block of Heil Street reported possible fraud. And 1:01 p.m. woman reported Nevada County resident has been using her credit card, spending hundreds of dollars on motorcycle equipment and alcohol. And 1:27 p.m. a caller from 11,000 block of Pleasant Valley Road reported a man in a purple car waving his arms who appeared to have no clothes on. And 3:11 p.m. a caller from 11,000 block of Tammy Way reported possible internet fraud. And 4:38 p.m. a man from 13,000 block of Mystic Mine Road reported being threatened with a sledgehammer. And 6:22 p.m. several callers from 10,000 block of Rough and Ready Highway reported a very drunken man staggering towards his vehicle. He was not found to be drunk or under the influence. And 8:25 p.m. a woman from Alta Sierra Drive reported her son was out of control and possibly under the influence of drugs. And Wednesday, 2:03 a.m. a man from 16,000 block of Pascali Road reported a drunken son was punching holes in the walls and acting crazy. And 6:14 a.m. a woman from 14,000 block of Deerhaven Lane reported a man lurking around her property. And Nevada City Police Department on Tuesday, 9:23 a.m. a caller from 400 block of Red Bud reported a theft. 4:56 p.m. a caller from 400 block of Nimrod Street reported two women spray painting the bathroom. Well, I'd call 911 too, wouldn't you? And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now we would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In local news headlines, man assaulted in alleged drug deal. And 3 arrested in drug charges after traffic stop. And online pot ad sparks multi-agency bust. And by the way, the pictures here, I found them. In today's first local story, written by Liz Keller of the Union, a brutal assault in downtown Nevada City that might have been a drug deal gone bad landed the victim in a hospital with a significant facial trauma. Nevada City police officers responded to a report of a man bleeding and lying on the ground at 200 block of South Pine Street just before 10 a.m. Wednesday, said Officer Chad Ellis. It's possibly was a drug deal gone bad, Ellis said. The victim, who has not been identified, had been battered by another man who was using his hands and feet. Ellis said he sustained facial lacerations, possible fractures, and had a tooth knocked out. He was transported to Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. The suspect, who also was not identified, left the scene in a vehicle and was being sought by police on suspicion of felony battery. And 3 Grass Valley residents were arrested on drug charges after a traffic stop in Alta Sierra Tuesday morning. Nevada County Narcotics Task Force members were near David Way and Alexander Street at about 11:15 a.m. when they recognized the driver of a vehicle as Corey Goodrich Fordyce. The narcotics officers knew him from previous contacts and knew he was on probation with search and seizure terms, said Nevada County Sheriff Lieutenant John Crope. Goodrich Fordyce, 21, allegedly was under the influence of a controlled substance and was booked on that charge as well as violating probation. He's being held in the county jail without bail. One of the passengers, Nicole Marie Swain, 26, was also allegedly under the influence of a controlled substance, booked and released on a $1,000 bail. And a second passenger, John Curtis Talkington, 20, allegedly was under the influence and had about 1 gram of methamphetamine. He was booked into county jail on suspicion of transporting a controlled substance, possession, and being under the influence of a controlled substance, and was being held in lieu of a $26,000 bail. A Craigslist.com advertisement sparked the month-long investigation that ended up to the arrest of 10 people and seizure of more than 2,000 plants and 44 pounds of processed marijuana, as well as 10 firearms in Calaveras and San Joaquin counties. This isn't about needing a pound of marijuana because you're ill, said Nevada County Sheriff's spokesperson. This was a lot of money and a lot of marijuana and a lot of weapons. A Nevada County Narcotics Task Force member answered the online ad which was advertising pot for sale, said Lieutenant John Crope. I think it's Krupp. I don't know. K-R-O-O-P-P. The man who had been then won the ad on Craigslist, Crope said. Undercover officer began negotiating a large purchase and brought in the Calaveras County Sheriff Office and San Joaquin County Metro Narcotics Task Force, assisting them with the case. Nevada County officers participated in a sting involving a transaction to buy 100 pounds of marijuana for $120,000, which took place in a parking lot in a Lodi fast food restaurant on March 12th. They did not have the 100 pounds, Rupp said. Our operators flashed some cash. Dealer flashed some marijuana. They never got to the 100 pounds. We did recover about 40 pounds of pot. 6 people were arrested during the sting, one of whom allegedly had a loaded handgun with him at the time. Multi-agency team also served a search warrant March 12th at a residence in Calaveras County, seizing more than 1,700 marijuana plants in various stages of growth and maturity, more than 4.5 pounds of processed marijuana, and more than 10 firearms, including an illegal assault rifle with a large drum-style magazine. 3 people were arrested at the address. Another search warrant was executed March 13th at a second residence in Calaveras County, and more than 450 additional marijuana plants were seized at that location. 1 person was arrested on an outstanding warrant. That's it today for our local news. And now we would like to thank the Union, Amy Goodman, Reuters, and Associated Press, and others for watching our news, and have a good weekend. And here's a little quick rant from me. Be your own meth police. Sometimes even stoners will stop to smell the roses. Society seems to adjust to the times, and Nevada County is finally coming to grips with the epidemic proportion of methamphetamine use in the area. This is not for the homeless, jobless, and indigent only. It also infects our middle-class workforce and professionals in all walks of life. This drug addiction is a cancer among us. It takes healthy, happy, well-adjusted humans and turns them into raging, paranoid, sketchy, thoughtless, weightless, toothless zombies who will steal, cheat, and infect others with their habits and need for the drug. Even tweakers like company And if they can persuade others to share their world, they will. We have heard many stories about 2 or 3 months clean, almost out of jail, users who are cured. I would like to hear from users clean 10 years or more, as I would believe those stories speak to problems of real recovery better than some short-term recovery confession, as this might just be a way of getting out of jail. Anyone who will take a 14-year-old girl, teach them to use needles, needs to be in jail. Anyone who sends their children to school to sell their home-cooked meth to students needs to be in jail. Anyone who manufactures any quantity of this substance needs to go to jail. Punishment must fit the crime, and this crime against us is serious. A lot of focus has been done on poor user who needs treatment. It is true that many users who hit rock bottom and see a light to recover need a helping hand. But do not believe that users who will tell you anything you want to hear to avoid conflict or jail, but turn right around and use are subjects for sympathy. Advice for users? Own up to what you are, and if you make a decision to stop, then seek treatment and make a real effort without being pressured into it from the legal side. Be your own police. If you really want to quit, then disassociate yourself from all your so-called friends who use with you. If this means moving to another town and starting over, then do it. Your life is what you make it, and it's never too late to stop. If you rob, cheat, steal, and lie to support your habit, don't just blame it on drugs. Your career and your character is what your own decisions mold. So make a decision and take that step back to sanity. My drug of choice might not have been methamphetamine, but I have been there and come back. Yes, it's been 20 years clean and sober. Well, actually, it's almost 30. And I am not an addict. I was. What can you do? You ask? Everyone knows the problems. It's the solutions that are needed. Here are a couple of ideas. Neighborhood watches, town hall meetings, communication between public and law enforcement, like the tip line, 265-4178. Education, explain just how bad meth ruins the lives of users and all people they contact. Quit sending mixed messages by being half drunk and smoking a cigarette while telling someone to stop taking other drugs. Substance abuse can also include marijuana, smoking, alcohol, prescription drugs, designer drugs, coke, heroin, etc. Some drugs' effects are not that big of an issue, but the association and access to harder drugs by the interaction with dealers and peer pressure could be. Treatment, let users know that we will help them revive their lives with programs and community support with options to help them cope with fighting addiction if they are really ready to make an effort to stop. Sometimes it's very hard for users to understand that they have a disease and it needs treatment. Families with 2 or 3 generation problems in substance abuse need to seek help, especially to not let the youngest generation follow in the same footsteps of the older ones. A strong message to all manufacturers and dealers of this death, we aren't going to take it anymore. Go to talk.to/crimewatch on the web. Check it out. We need our youth to help us communicate with the youth who ignore us. If you believe strongly in the fact that any type of substance in excess can be abusive and you have forgotten what those joys are, then go to the nearest garden and smell the roses. God really does have a plan. Life can be hella good without dope. Prop 36, Road to Recovery. Nobody can disagree that methamphetamines is the worst drug abused in our society. The solution was to lock everyone up, but after a few decades of building more jails and filling them up with drug addicts, we began to wonder, is there another way? People went to jail and did their time, then they fell back in the same patterns of drug use, only to be arrested again and again. This is called recidivism. Law enforcement has had the unfortunate job of spending a very high percentage of their time dealing with minor drug offenses. People who have addictions need more than just incarceration to solve their problems. They need recovery and to be shown a way to return to society. Some drug users are robbers and burglars and have other problems besides drug addiction. These individuals end up being locked up for the other types of criminal charges. Other users are your next door neighbor, the guy working at the gas station, the girl doing your hair at the salon, or a kid working at a fast food restaurant. These are not career criminals, and this is where the big problem lies. If you take an everyday person with a drug use problem and lock them up with common criminals, they are introduced to a career as a criminal. If you take a drug user and introduce them to a program to treat their addiction, it could possibly cure it. The former drug user could only back into society as a functional person. Prop 36 was born. We had a good program in Nevada County called Project Jumpstart, thanks to Bill McNamara. One of the reasons it was successful was the inmates who entered the program were released into recovery programs in other counties. Most of them stayed in their new locations after their completion to avoid old associations they had when they were on drugs in Nevada County. Some people think marijuana is a gateway to the drug underworld, and they are right. We made it illegal, and we put it in a class with other street drugs, and then made movies like Reefer Madness to spread lies about what it is, what it does, and how your life would be ruined by it. The problem is marijuana is a plant that does have some medicinal value, even if only to give cancer patients an appetite. If marijuana had also been a prescription herb and regulated by the government, people would go to a legal drug dealer, your local doctor, and not end up at the street dealer, who might eventually introduce them into harder drugs such as cocaine, heroin, meth, etc. If the pharmaceutical companies regulated marijuana and produced enough so the price was regulated at a low cost, then a big bite would be taken out of crime. Drugs are big business worldwide, and even all smuggling and drug operations were, if they were stopped, what would all the task force do? Sometimes I think keeping the same as it is really just some sort of job security. To take it further, if you legalized all street drugs and made them class 3 drugs, had them pharmaceutical companies manufacture them and imposed large taxes on them, you could take the cartels out of the drug business. You could also funnel those taxes collected into recovery programs toward the education of society and the effects of drug addiction. Our society sends too many conflicting messages to the next generation. We have drugstores, over-the-counter legal drugs like beer and wine and cigarettes, so why not smoke pot? We should put some teeth in Prop 36. The last laws added to it have done some of that, but we need more. To return to the Stone Age of catch, hold in jail, and release is not a good idea. Support Prop 36 and recovery. Support drug education for our preteens, like the 40 Assets program being introduced in the Nevada County Substance Abuse